Hello, brothers, and welcome to Makai-World Reviews. This is episode number 80, and I'm the immortal Tono Makai, master of vitamins and prayers. This month, if you had not guessed or had not known, we're going to be looking at the movies starring the one, the only, Hulk Hogan. Now, this is no approval or condemnation of the man himself, simply an act to torture myself for your amusement. Today we're looking at Mr. Nanny. I don't know if it makes it into the top 10 of men becoming nanny movies, but I highly doubt it. So let's go ahead and get to it. I know I did cover this last week, but I know Ian Fuso and Brian Zane did Hogan stuff. I wrote my scripts way months ahead of time. Happy accident. Hope I'm riding the coattails. Thanks, guys. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Mr. Nanny, directed by Michael Gottlieb, who also co-wrote with Edward Rogoff. Rogoff and Gottlieb, the immortal duo. They are something of a team together, having written and directed the, of course, brilliant Kim Cattrall vehicle Mannequin and its sequel. Where is our Mannequin reboot, everyone? Doesn't Reese Witherspoon need something to do? Or, frankly, is it Margot Robb's career winding down and she's about due for something this foul? Starring, of course, Hulk Hogan, one of the, I don't want to say greatest because I don't agree with that, but most important wrestlers of all time. Man that I think, as a wrestling fan of any generation, we have some appreciate for his helping grow the business to a higher degree. Beyond that, he's frankly kind of a piece of shit. And I think, as we're going to see this week, also a bad actor. So why am I doing this? I think it's funny, and this is my channel. Also, Sherman Hemsley's in this. If you don't know Sherman Hemsley, The Jeffersons is a fantastic television show, and the man was a private and consummate professional. He was in the television realm for a good portion of his career. Something interesting I know about him, much like myself, he was a big fan of progressive rock, which I think is awesome, as well as being something of a musician himself. What's he doing in this? Release date was October 8th, 1993, and what came out the same week? Demolition Man. I like Demolition Man, I do. I know it's awful. I get a kick out of it. Stallone and Snipes just kind of being badasses in between. There's some good to totally cringy comedy. But the 3 shells for pooping thing is in the zeitgeist, so it's got that going for it. And The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm not a Tim Burton fan necessarily, but I am a Danny Elfman fan, and this is mostly his movie. A good kids semi-horror film. My daughter loves it, and she's 2. And I think it can be appreciated on some level by people of all ages, though isn't much for rewatches. Let's get into the meat of this. Sean Armstrong is a retired wrestler with some vague PTSD when his old manager, Bert, comes by. Sean is Hogan, Bert is Sherman. Bert took a bullet for Sean due to a reason we find out later, and he wants Sean to pay him back. So after some reluctance, Sean begins working as a bodyguard for hire for Bert's failing business. And who is Sean bodyguarding? Alex Mason Sr. is the man who looks more like he would fit in the movie Brazil than this one, who is kind of a vague tech genius, has invented a new kind of military microchip that I will get into much later. But it's all a bit of a ruse, as Sean is not here to protect Alex, but his kids, Alex Jr. and Kate, who are troublemakers to the highest degree, who run through all of the house servants, save the chef, who is a no-nonsense black lady that I love. We move into the prank middle part of the film where the kids do genuinely mean-spirited things to Sean because they are mad at their dad for working so much and their mom from being dead, such as electromagnets on his weights which cause him to be crushed by them, Rube Goldberg-esque traps to cause massive blunt trauma to the head, broken glass in his chair, tripwires on marble stairs, controlling his elliptical to cause him to go to coronary setting, which it has for some reason, literally electrocuting him to seeming death, and finally, some kind of red dye prank, which for some reason is the line for Sean, and disciplines the kids quite severely by yelling at them. Apparently this is the first time they've ever been disciplined. But as well as severe bodily harm, Sean also bonds with the kids, teaching Junior about confidence, because he's frequently bullied in school, which is of course handled, but slightly more clever than you would expect from this movie, and bonding with Kate over dead parents and school misbehavior, all the while trying to teach Alex Sr. to be more of a dad and show some emotion to his kids. All the while, all this personal harm and general bonding is going on, we have the villain, Tommy Thanatos, who is played by Buster Poindexter, wanting to steal the chip, and with his group of varying ethnic minions, including a German strongman that will inevitably come to blows with Sean, and the blows do come. So Tommy not only ends up kidnapping Alex, but his kids as well. But Sean is put down in the first meeting by evil German guy, but then round 2 arrives. Sean beats up a lot of guys, and the family groups together to seemingly kill Tommy, to much rejoice. In the end, Sean leaves the family, but of course, they also try to kill him in a good-natured ribbing kind of way by attaching a metal wire to his bike. So let's go over the pros and cons for this one, because it does have some pros. First off, I hate to lump these two together as they're the only black people in the movie, but Sherman Hemsley and Mother Love, who were Bert and Corrine, respectively, were the best parts of the movie. Corrine had a lot of heart, a lot of sass. She had some nice exposition. She was funny. The part where the evil German guy grabs her, man, I actually got mad about that because she went down fighting. She was really entertaining, but Bert, more so, he's the catalyst for the whole film, and he has this wacky energy. There's this running gag that the stuff in his house is continuously getting repossessed, and he keeps calling Sean and being like, my life is ruined. He eventually comes up to see Sean and the kids and really helps put forth some of the lessons Sean had been trying to hammer home. He's the moral compass in some ways, and him, Sean, and Tommy Thanatos have a previous relationship, but I'll get into that. Speaking of Bert and the messages Sean tries to get across to the kids, Alex Jr. in particular, there's a running theme that Alex Jr. is bullied, and Sean wants to help, but he knows it won't end the bullying if he does it for him. He can't be around all the time. So he tries to, with Bert's help, teach Alex some confidence, and Alex makes a point. You're big and muscly. And Sean says, yeah, but I still got picked on. It's good to be healthy for yourself, but to avoid that kind of conflict, you have to be confident and smart. And so Sean learns that and uses his wits to, electrocutes the bullies, but still, it's an overall positive message. Of course, there are other wrestlers involved, which is cool to see. Kamala, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, of course, the Zodiac, Ed Leslie, George the Animal Steel was here for some reason. I think there were one or two others I'm missing. I just like seeing wrestlers and stuff. But of course, the last name of Hogan's character, Armstrong, is reference to the Armstrong wrestling family, Bullet Bob, the Road Dogg, etc. Now I'm going to put these two in neutral, as they are good and bad components in these. Hogan himself is a real mixed bag. While he is limited in his acting ability, it's kind of covered up well here. The action scenes are competent to the surprise of no one. The scene where he arrives, Alex's bodyguard and a bunch of security mooks try to stop him, and he beats him up, and the head security guard is like, we should fire him, but Alex goes, no, apparently he can handle himself. That's what I need a bodyguard for. It's a scene that makes sense and sets up both Sean and Alex's characters. The finale with him fighting everyone, including generic ethnic guy number 110. He has a genuine connection with the kids, which is nice. Some of the prank stuff, I'll get into that. That's not Hogan's fault. But it was stupid. Yeah, he was okay. As limited of an actor as he was, he didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting, which was for the best. There was really a strange, it's hinted Sean has PTSD, like I said, from his wrestling stuff, but it only comes up twice. I would have liked it to have been, explored more, especially with the kids abusing him for the first part of the movie. That would trigger it, and that's what made him snap. Hey, you guys don't understand what abusing someone, what kind of trauma it can put on somebody. It would have been a better direction to go. The directing and cine, fine, they did nothing crazy. The shots were competent. I don't have a ton to say about it besides staggeringly average, which for a film like this, I'd say is a wonder. Now for the cons. Buster Poindexter. Tommy Thanatos, which is actually a good name, is a mess. The whole plot with him makes almost no sense, and he's terribly written. He's a former wrestling promoter turned international arms dealer. And I know for some promoters that's not much of a stretch, but Jesus, the whole plot with him and Sean and Bert having a history, it makes no sense. It adds nothing to the character, the plot, the motivation. Because he's trying to kidnap Alex and get this chip. Isn't that enough? Do we need to shoehorn this other nonsense into it for some fake drama? It's awful, and he has a metal head. I didn't talk about the metal head. And it keeps getting migraines from reverb. We also don't ever find out why he wants this chip. There's never a reason for it. It's messy. Reason the fact that the plot is garbage in general. Alex Sr., is he trying to make a chip to make a Metal Gear? The United States has surface-to-air missiles and ICBM, stuff like that can fire anywhere in the world at this time, essentially, by 1993. So it makes me think Alex works for, or is going to work for, or sell his chip to another government, because he doesn't work for the U.S. There are no military contracts mentioned, and if there were, you'd think the U.S. would hire him some bodyguards, or he'd work at a military facility. Now, Alex Sr. is an arms dealer. He's going to sell his technology to North Korea or Israel or whomever. That's a fact. The kids, maybe I should put them in neutral, because Kate, who is Madeline Zima, I think her name is, who was in Twin Peaks The Return, which is awkward to see her in that. Then this, if you know, you know. She was alright. She was cute and sassy and quippy. The boy, Alex Jr., he's hot garbage. He has such a punchable face, and he makes strange adult jokes that are really, I don't know why he does it. And the level of violence, these kids come across as not troubled because their mom's dead and their dad sucks, but they're psychopaths through and through. They attempt to kill several people. As far as we know with Tommy, they succeeded in that. They are just very uneven and very unlikable for the most part. Soundtrack. Most of the soundtrack was done by Buster Poindexter with rigor mortis and some classic music like Tchaikovsky and the Nutcracker Suite. It's not bad. It's interesting, and it adds a little bit of the film to the film that it could sorely have used. Fairly interesting. I don't know what else to say about it, honestly. Buster Poindexter, rigor mortis, and Tarkovsky. I mean, there it is. Overall, this was an unusual film. It wasn't quite awful, but it was really uneven. Though even saying that, it was much better than I expected. The story was absolute garbage, but the moments with characters that had some heart, had some decent things going on, and no one really stunk up the joint, despite some of the material they were given. Especially Hulk Hogan, who this might be the best movie we watched this month. I'm going to go on a limb and say it is. Now, what was the Hulkster doing in wrestling around this time? He had left the WWF in August, and he would work in New Japan Pro Wrestling in September, but he was doing nothing in October, strange for him. So would I recommend Mr. Nanny? No, it's not really for kids because it has some adult humor, and I don't know if the kids would care. It's not really for adults because it's stupid. But if you're going to watch a Hulk Hogan movie, you could do a lot worse than this. Well, that was week 2 in the legendary Hulk Hogan movie month with Mr. Nanny. What was your favorite thing you've ever seen Sherman Helmsley in? Maybe I'll do a month on him. Let me know down below. Also, along with that, subscribe, check out my Instagram, Demon Peaks for daily Twin Peaks memes, and take a look at my podcast, the Dark Peaks Podcast. You know, the gentlemen talk about crack rock. Also come back next week for another big leg drop by the Leather Man, so we look at Secret Agent Club. This has been the Total Makai. Thank you very much, and goodbye.